well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Cam Edwards, your host, glad you are with us today. Yes, we have finally made it to Friday, although every day just seems like a Monday these days, does it not? Thank you so much for coming on the program today. We're going to get you caught up on some of the latest news regarding your right to keep and bear arms as it is playing out in court. But we want to start, I don't know why I'm using the royal we here. I want to start by talking a little bit about the overreach that we are starting to see when it comes to some of these stay-at-home orders and the petty tyranny that is raising its ugly head across the country. The president announcing yesterday a three-stage plan to reopen the nation's economy. It says that some states can go to stage one as early as May 1st, actually even before May 1st, and we'll again start to open things up again. The president on Twitter today talking about liberating several states, including the state of Virginia. Take a look at this. Yes, liberate Virginia and save your great Second Amendment. It is under siege. Indeed, it is, Mr. President, because Governor Ralph Northam has signed 5 gun control bills into law, including universal background checks, a return of 1 gun a month, lost or stolen, and more. He has offered amendments to 2 other gun control bills that passed through the state legislature. That, too, a constitutional overreach. We are seeing all kinds of constitutional overreaches around the country, unfortunately, as the coronavirus chaos continues. In Wisconsin, a lawsuit's been filed against the Marquette County Sheriff over a free speech violation. I know that we talk primarily about the Second Amendment here on Cam and Company, but this one, I got to tell you, this one is worth noting and worth talking about just because of the insanity of the facts of this case. So the Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty filed this lawsuit in federal court on Thursday against Marquette County Sheriff Joseph Conrath, as well as a patrol sergeant for violating the First and 14th Amendment rights of a teenager in Oxford, Wisconsin. This teenager, Amia Cahoon, developed a respiratory illness in March after a trip to spring break to Florida. So as you might imagine, she was pretty concerned that she might have COVID-19. She went to the hospital. Her symptoms worsened, according to the lawsuit, and she ended up at a hospital in Madison, Wisconsin, where she tested negative for COVID-19, but doctors told her that she likely had the virus but had missed the testing window. So she goes on Instagram, and she posts about this because she's a teenager, and, I'm sure the phone is surgically attached to her hand at this point. And at one point, she had a post that after she returned from the hospital that she had, quote, beaten the coronavirus. March 27th, a sergeant from the Marquette County Sheriff's Office shows up at the Cahoon home and demands that the Instagram post be removed. Yeah. Or Amia's going to face arrest for disorderly conduct. She did remove the Instagram posts after the threat by law enforcement. Apparently law enforcement was brought to the house or was asked to go to the house by the superintendent of schools, where Amia is a student there in the school district. The superintendent, I guess, was creeping on student social media while they're stuck at home and saw this post and thought that, oh my gosh, there's something wrong here. And this is just unreal. According to the lawsuit, after Mr. Cahoon came outside, Sergeant Klump explained that the school superintendent had complained to the defendant, Sheriff Joseph Conrath, about one of Amia's Instagram posts. Sheriff Klump showed Mr. Cahoon a screenshot of Amia's third Instagram post. Sergeant Klump stated that he had direct orders from Sheriff Conrath to demand that Amia delete this post, and if she did not, to cite Amia and or her parents for disorderly conduct, and to, quote, start taking people to jail. The lawsuit says that Sergeant Klump stated that Sheriff Conrath wanted the post removed because there were no confirmed cases of COVID-19 in the county at that time. The sheriff has since said that this is a case of shouting the 21st century equivalent of shouting fire in a movie theater. Basically saying that, she said she recovered from the coronavirus, but the test was negative. So this could have incited panic in the community. Oh my gosh, look, Amia went to Florida. She came back with the coronavirus. And so therefore, this post somehow needs to be taken down in order not to incite panic in the community, which is utter and complete nonsense. Again, according to we're not even going to get into according to what the doctor said or not. Even if this teenager never went to Florida, even if she never went to the hospital and she said on Instagram, yeah, I beat the coronavirus, that's not a cause for, quote, starting to take people to jail. Even if she were wrong, even if she were lying, that is not a reason to take a 16-year-old or her parents to jail over an Instagram post. And frankly, the sheriff should have told the superintendent to go to hell. Sergeant Klump, based on the allegations in this lawsuit, should have told the sheriff, remember your oath. But unfortunately, it took the parents here of this 16-year-old to tell these petty tyrants to go stuff themselves and file this lawsuit. So we'll keep our eyes on this lawsuit in the days and weeks ahead. Meanwhile, the mayor of Clovis, California, is urging Governor Gavin Newsom to not shut down gun stores across the state. Right now, Governor Newsom's stay-at-home order is basically being enforced county by county, city by city. In most of the counties in California, most of the geographic areas of California, gun stores remain open. In most of the population centers, it's kind of another story. Los Angeles City has declared gun stores have to close. They're non-essential. Sheriff Alex Villanueva, had closed gun stores in Los Angeles County and the independent cities that his office serves. And then he said, okay, they can be open. And then he said, okay, no, they got to close. And then he said, okay, they can be open. And then there was a lawsuit, and a federal judge said, well, they can close. But Sheriff Villanueva has not closed them, even after the judge gave him the green light. Up in the Bay Area, there are, I believe, close to a dozen jurisdictions that have been sued by a coalition of Second Amendment organizations over the closure of gun stores, places like Alameda County, San Jose City. But most of the state of California gun stores remain open. And the mayor of Clovis, California, which is in Fresno County, wrote this letter to Governor Gavin Newsom saying, listen, if you were to order, and he did so because there's an assemblyman in California, Miguel Santiago, from the LA area, who wrote a letter to Governor Newsom saying, hey, close down these gun stores. This is a public safety emergency, and this is a public safety crisis. We've got people who are panic buying guns, and it's a bad thing. So don't cut off their access. Don't let anybody buy a gun anymore. The mayor of Clovis, California, said to Governor Newsom, don't do that. These are essential businesses. And by the way, you start shutting down gun stores, you're only going to add to people's panic and fear, particularly when you have inmates that are being let loose from jails and prisons across the state of California. Now, Governor Newsom was asked about this at a news conference this week, and he basically reiterated, he's leaving it up to the counties. He actually made some mouth noises about supporting the Second Amendment, which I found very odd because if you do, then you'd probably be telling these counties to keep the gun stores open so people can acquire firearms and exercise the right to keep arms. But again, I think he wants to avoid the political pitfalls of ordering gun stores shut down himself, knowing that in the more liberal areas of the state of California, those local officials are going to do that for him. So that's where we are right now in California. Now, in Georgia, we had a lawsuit that was filed just yesterday, Second Amendment Foundation and the Firearms Policy Coalition, filing this lawsuit against the governor, but really against the probate judge in Cherokee County, Georgia. So in Georgia, in order for you to carry a firearm, even openly, you have to have what's called a Georgia weapons license. That allows you to carry openly or concealed. In Cherokee County, a judge said back on March 14th, hey, we're shutting down the court for 2 months. The probate judge is the individual in Georgia who issues these licenses. So the Cherokee County probate judge said, got to take a 2-month breather on this. We're not going to process any Georgia weapons license applications for, until at this point, until May 13th. And so if you want to bear arms in Cherokee County, Georgia, and you are not currently a Georgia weapons license holder, you're out of luck. In most states where we've seen sheriffs hit the pause button on accepting concealed carry applications, open carry at least is an option. That's not the case in Georgia. So this lawsuit filed again Thursday in federal court, asking for a couple of things. First of all, asking that the Georgia statute that requires a license to carry be thrown out. But if the federal judge doesn't want to go that far, then they're asking that the probate judge start processing the Georgia weapons license applications rather than taking that 2-month breather, because in the meantime, people's constitutional rights are being denied to them. It's not that they're being regulated. It's not that they're being moderated. They're being denied. You have the right to keep, you have the right to bear, but right now, in Cherokee County, Georgia, you got the right to keep unless you already have your license that allows you to bear. That's the status quo, and they're hoping to change that. So we'll keep you updated on what's going on there in that case in Georgia. And again, around the country, we have close to a dozen active lawsuits right now, most of them taking on gun store closures. We talked yesterday with Sheriff Tony Mace in New Mexico about the governor's order there. That's being challenged. New York State, you've got NRA versus Cuomo. I mentioned the lawsuit out in Northern California. The lawsuit in Southern California does continue, even though a U.S. district judge did not grant a temporary injunction that would have blocked the ability for Sheriff Villanueva there in L.A. County to order gun stores closed. But again, a number of lawsuits active right now across the nation. You've got a couple of other lawsuits. One we wrote about in Bearing Arms yesterday out of the state of Michigan over Governor Whitmer's stay-at-home order. And now you've got 4 sheriffs in Michigan who are speaking out and saying, listen, we're going to use common sense to apply and enforce these orders. I heard one of the sheriffs talking on Fox today, and he one of the things that he brought up was this order from Governor Whitmer. If you want to go on a canoe or a kayak on a lake, that's fine. But if you want to take a jet ski out or a pontoon boat or a motorboat, that's not fine. That's against the law. This sheriff said that's stupid. If you're 100 yards out in the middle of the water and nobody's around you, that's kind of where we want you to be, right? You're not in close contact with anybody else. You're not stuck inside the home. He said he's concerned that there's been an increase, an uptick, I think he called it, in domestic violence incidents there in his county. And he said, we don't want people in close confinement with one another if they don't have to be. If you can get out and you can be safe and you can be outside, do it. Get out of the house. Don't be cooped up with everybody. Take a breather. And he said, again, we're going to use common sense in enforcing this law. I think you're going to see more of that. And as we talked about in the program yesterday, I am not one who denies or downplays the risk of the coronavirus. But when you see these types of egregious and unconstitutional overreach, the reaction is going to be a pushback in the opposite direction. If you want people to practice safe social distancing measures, if you want people to stay at home as often as they can and to not congregate in large crowds of people in public, then don't treat them like they're children, right? And don't try to enforce asinine rules that make no sense at this point in time and do nothing to protect anybody or keep them safe. Unfortunately, again, we're seeing some public officials decide that the power trip is more important than public safety. All right, let's get to today's Armed Citizen story, our good deed of the day, as well as our recidivist report. We'll start there. Also from the state of Wisconsin, a Madison man has received prison time for a shooting back in 2019, but he's actually objecting now to the plea bargain that he agreed to because he thought he was going to get even more time off. Yeah, I mean, so here's the deal. 21-year-old Marshawn Giles was sentenced to 2 years in prison and 2 years of probation for a shooting in Janesville, Wisconsin back in 2019. But then he learned he wasn't going to get credit for the 300 days that he spent behind bars. And now he wants to take back his plea bargain because he thought he was going to have to do way less than 2 years, just a year. He says, I feel misled. Now, the Gazette Extra newspaper says that Giles' jail time won't count in this case because it counts towards a separate conviction for which Giles was serving probation at the time of the shooting. State law prevents accumulated jail time from being applied to multiple cases. So, this is... okay. Judge John Wood, said prosecutors and Giles' attorney can discuss whether the 300 days should be accepted as time served in the current case. If they agree that time does not count, he could have his sentencing and plea agreement reopened if he wishes. Now, according to prosecutors, Giles was driving down the road. There was a car driving behind him, multiple people inside. Giles does a U-ey, and then as he passes the car, he opens fire with a .38 caliber handgun. Nobody was hit, but the car sustained damage. Somebody easily could have been killed. Allegedly, this stemmed from a bad drug deal, according to prosecutors. But Marshawn Giles, 21 years of age, the sweetheart deal that he got of just 2 years in prison wasn't sweet enough. And now he's objecting. And, I kind of hope, actually, I don't just kind of hope, I do hope he rejects this plea deal and gets resentenced. Maybe even goes to trial. And I would hope he would get more than 2 years behind bars for trying to kill multiple people. All right, on to our armed citizen story of the day. A crazy story from the Times-Leader newspaper in Pennsylvania, where a family forced to defend themselves in a bizarre home invasion. This was in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. Saturday night, 30-year-old Jeremy Battle walks into a home. Nobody knows who he is. He just walks in through the back door where someone is cooking in the kitchen and says, hey, I want to buy a bottle of liquor. And as you might expect, the homeowner says, I don't know you, and I don't have any liquor for sale. Get out of my house. And that is when Battle drew a gun and began demanding liquor. According to police, when Battle grabbed his own firearm, a person inside the home grabbed his arm to disarm him. That initiated a struggle, and then a person inside the home fired a round from a .45 caliber pistol, striking Battle in the leg. Battle fled the home, ran through the rear yard, climbed over the fence. Battle was then apparently given a ride to a local hospital by a woman named Mariana Urovich, who told police, and I got to quote this, told police that she had only known Battle for 2 days and they were having intimate relations for extended periods of time. Well then, the Times-Leader says that Urovich claimed that Battle instructed her to drive to this area where he exited her vehicle. She allegedly did not know why Battle needed a ride to the neighborhood, but when he returned to the vehicle, he allegedly told her he had been shot and asked her to drive him to a hospital. He gave several versions of what happened, including claiming that she had set him up. He's been charged with aggravated assault, simple assault, reckless endangerment, criminal trespass, and illegal possession of a firearm. And I'm guessing that those extended periods of intimate relations with Mariana Urovich have come to an end for Mr. Battle. Finally, our good deed of the day, where a high school senior saved the life of his coach. This was in Sale Creek, Tennessee, from News Channel 9 in Nashville. Soddy Daisy Middle School coach Stan Sumrall is alive today thanks to the quick thinking of a senior from Sale Creek High School. According to Lieutenant Colonel Dave Story of the Sale Creek JROTC, Braylon Breeson, who's part of the JROTC, plans to join the U.S. Marine Corps after graduation. Noticed on Wednesday that the coach, who's in his late 60s, had become unmoored from a boat docks. The coach jumped in the water, swam to it, but when he made it to the boat, he realized he wasn't strong enough to pull himself up out of the water and onto the boat. Braylon saw what was going on, yelled out to the coach, "You need help," and then swam out to the boat, pulled himself out of the water, grabbed the coach's hand, pulled him to safety. According to Lieutenant Colonel Story, quote, Coach Summerall said he was still shaking and realized he could have lost his life. Story said, "I'll be putting Braylon Beeson in for the highest cadet award for cadets who risk their life to save another." So in the right place at the right time and willing and able to do the right thing, Braylon Beeson there in Tennessee. We thank you for being one of the many, many good guys out there. All right. That's going to do it for this edition of Bearing Arms Cam & Company. Thank you for being a part of the program. Don't forget, next week we have a VIP Gold Editors Chat coming up with our friend Ed Morrissey. So we'll be tag teaming that. Also, don't forget you can subscribe to Town Hall Media on YouTube or Bearing Arms Cam & Company on Apple Podcasts. That way you never miss a program. Enjoy your weekend. Try to get out of the house. Stay, a safe distance away from folks, but soak in some sunshine if you can. Be safe, be well, be free, and we'll see you here soon with another edition of Bearing Arms Cam & Company.